So imagine this scenario. You create an S3 bucket and then you use it for some small testing. You keep it empty, but you might need it for testing later, so you keep it and then you go about your business, because empty S3 buckets should not cause any charges in your AWS bill. Right? Wrong. You get the bill at the end of the month and you see a $1,500 charge for the usage of the S3 API. How did that happen? Right, so if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I make videos on AWS cloud and software engineering in general. If you think that's going to be helpful, please subscribe. I make videos on a weekly basis, most of the time. So the scenario that I mentioned, that was a real case that happened to a real person in the real world. I talked about this in a previous video where I talked about how different ways of S3 usage could actually result in denial of wallet attacks in your AWS account. It turns out, because of how AWS had structured their billing around the S3 API, even the requests that would originate from outside the account would still incur a charge in the bucket owner's AWS bill. This was obviously suboptimal. Anyone with malicious intent could cause serious damage in terms of a denial of wallet attack on your account or your organization just by knowing your AWS S3 bucket name. Now, AWS was quick to respond to this situation. Jeff Bai actually acknowledged this in Twitter, and after a few weeks, AWS released this announcement that said they are no longer charging for requests that originating from outside the account if they result in an error code like 403. Now, first, this was applied to certain regions and certain parts of the S3 API, and in August, a few weeks ago, AWS completed that rollout and they have released another announcement saying that this change is available in all regions and for all parts of the S3 API, and the customer doesn't have to do anything for this change to happen in the bills or the S3 API. This is obviously good. You no longer have to treat S3 bucket names as highly sensitive data. But it doesn't mean that you should still publicize the bucket names unnecessarily. You shouldn't be posting your production S3 bucket names in Stack Overflow questions or answers. There still need to know basis information. Also, there are some fine print details that you should know about this change. There are specific error codes that this change applies to. So not all error codes are included in this change. You should refer to the documentation if you are doing any total cost of ownership calculations at this fine-grained level. So if that happens, just make sure that you know the place to go to and you understand the areas that this impacts. And the requester pays model still applies. Requester pays model is basically allocating the data transfer charges and the bandwidth charges to the entity that makes the request or the account that makes the request, and the bucket owner would not be paying for those requests at all. There are certain situations where requester pays model would still allocate certain charges to the bucket owner. Now, if a request originates from inside the account or the organization that the bucket belongs to, and if it still results in a 403 response, that charge would still be allocated to the bucket owner. And lastly, S3 buckets can be used to host static web pages and make them available on the public internet. And if you return custom error documents for certain error codes, then you still have to pay for those requests as the bucket owner. With all that said, I think it's commendable that AWS was able to acknowledge this and fix this sooner. Someone could argue that to be truly customer obsessed, these kind of situations would be caught before they are actually implemented, before the billing logic was actually implemented, and I would have a hard time arguing against that argument in that situation. But seeing how certain providers gaslight their customers in certain security situations or certain vulnerabilities being present in their cloud implementation or service implementations, I still think AWS should be appreciated for acknowledging this and making this change so that the customer doesn't have to bear this burden on something that they don't actually have control over. So I hope that brings a meaningful closure to the situation for Marche, who was the first person that reported this to AWS, and I'm sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly, and I hope this was meaningful to you. If it was, please don't forget to like the video and comment. That interaction helps the channel a lot, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be making more videos like this in the future. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.